If you're unsure about motorhome habitation checks, whether you legally need one, what you have to do with one, how much it costs, and everything else involved with them, then this is the video for you.
Good time. We're chasing every moment, all the good nights. We're always looking out and it's a good life. We go around the world for a show. And it's a good time. We're chasing every moment, all the good nights. We're always looking out and it's a good life. No, we are never letting this go.
Hi, I'm Kat from the motorhome travel website Wandering Bird, where we share tips and tricks for touring the UK and Europe by motorhome and campervan. Today we're going to talk about motorhome habitation checks, which is a question I've been getting a lot lately. I think as people are starting to travel again, they're worrying about whether their motorhome needs a habitation check, do they legally need to have one, and all these other questions. So I'm going to do my best to answer them for you. If you have a question that I don't answer in this video, then by all means drop it into the comments below and I'll do my best to answer it. Before we get started, I just want to direct your attention to the video notes. In there you'll find a link to get your free motorhome maintenance checklist, which will help keep you organised on everything you need to do for your motorhome and campervan. There's also a link in there to our free resource library, which has got a variety of checklists and itineraries and various things which you might find useful. And there's also the link to our motorhome habitation check post, which has got the links to the various services and things that I'm going to be talking about in this video. Okay. Let's talk about motorhome habitation checks. And the first question is, what is a habitation check? In my opinion, it's a little bit like a boat survey. If you're not familiar with boat surveys, it's kind of like a house survey when you buy a house. Basically, somebody comes into your van and goes through all of the main systems that are inside and connected to them on the outside of the van. So things like your gas system, your water system, your electrics, doesn't cover solar power. Checking your leisure batteries all right, checking your pipe works are okay, your tanks underneath, checking your safety equipment, checking rust, checking damp spots, checking the bodywork. It doesn't cover the engine, it is not an MOT, not the same thing. You still need to have an MOT and that is a legal requirement. A habitation check is let's call it a safety check to make sure that all of your systems inside your motorhome are in good working order for you to use. The second question that people ask is it a legal requirement? And the answer is, unless you are requested to get one done by your motorhome insurance, or unless you're trying to keep up a warranty, if your van's newish and you need to get one done every year or so to maintain a warranty, then you do not legally need to have a habitation check done at all, ever. You can buy a van and go 10 years without ever getting a habitation check done. Now, I don't recommend that, but you do not legally need to get one done. However, if you are buying a motorhome or a campervan, a second-hand one, because admittedly if you're buying a new one you're covered by warranty, but if you're buying a second-hand motorhome or campervan that doesn't have a warranty or isn't inside the warranty time period, I would 100% request one to be done before you buy that vehicle, because if you have got any underlying problems, you want to know about it before you buy it. To be fair, you don't need one then. You can buy a vehicle without getting a habitation check done. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can legally get one done. And you can legally drive one, you can legally use one, you can legally live in one without a habitation check done, unless of course your insurance says you need one. So, if it's not a legal requirement, why would you get one? We get habitation checks done for two reasons. One is it keeps up the value of your vehicle if you get them done regularly. Now, we don't get one done by a professional every year. We get ours done every couple of years, unless obviously we can see there might be a problem that we need professional help with. I think we get ours done every 2 years or so, although the last year has thrown that out a little bit. But yeah, we get ours done semi-regularly. Some people get them done religiously every year when they book in for the MOT. That's fine, absolutely. Some people haven't had one done for 10 years. If you haven't had one done for a long period of time, there's going to be a chance that your vehicle will depreciate a little bit more because you don't have that history of it being regularly maintained. The second important reason is that it's a safety reason. It helps keep you and your family safe, especially things like the gas system, which can have all sorts of problems going unseen and unheard and unsmelt even for gas that you might not know are there. Do you really want to risk it with your family in the van? I'll leave that up to you, but that's the reason that most people pay to get habitation checks done on a regular basis. If your motorhome has a wooden frame, I highly recommend you getting one done at least once a year, because they are so much more affected if you do happen to get some water ingress or some damp spots. And maybe you don't even notice it, but the damp meters that the professional use are able to pick up problem areas that you might not otherwise see, like in a locker or somewhere out of the way. So if you have got a wooden frame where your motorhome could actually be really badly damaged by damp, definitely would get one of these done at least once a year. So, in terms of getting a habitation check done, you've got two options. The first option is you get a professional in to do it, or you take your van to a professional servicer. You can either get people who'll come to you, like a mobile engineer, or you can take it to a service centre that is approved. If you have somebody coming to you, you need to bear in mind that they're going to need access to electricity and they're going to need access to water. So if your vehicle is stored somewhere like a storage yard, you're going to struggle getting a habitation check done there if you can't move your vehicle to your home address or something else for the day while somebody comes and checks it all out. So you might find it easier to take it to a service centre. And if you look at the link in the notes, it will show you a couple of places where they have service centres all around the UK, and they can help you get booked into one of those. If you are fairly good with things like DIY and generally can figure things out, you can do your own habitation check to a point. Now, like I said, we get ours done every other year or so. In the interim, we don't just not look at our van or maintain it or make sure that it's all right. We'll do our own version of a habitation check. The only system that we're not comfortable checking out and saying with confidence that it's okay is our gas system. Having lived on boats for so long and heard so many horror stories about gas explosions and gas leakages and secret gas things, we're always a little bit wary about gas, which is why we took it off our boat completely. So we do get a professional check that out, but everything else in the interim periods, we can monitor ourselves. Now, obviously, if we see something that we think looks wrong or we're worried about, then we can then take it to a professional to get them to sort it out. But if you are fairly handy, you can do it yourself to a point. If I was doing it on my own, I would get a habitation check done every year just to make sure it's okay, because I'm not anywhere near as handy as my husband is. So it's no shame which way around you do it. You just need to make sure that at least once a year you are running through the systems on your van and making sure that everything's okay. And the beginning of a season's a really good time to do that after it's been stood for a while, because it gives you a chance to get to grips with your van and to know how things work, and just to see for yourself that there aren't any loose pipes or cracked tanks or leaks or damp spots or anything like that. Now, there are a series of, they're called approved workshops, which have been independently assessed by the NCC, the National Caravan Council, and the Camping and Motorhoming Club, and I think the Caravan Club's involved in them as well. And those bodies, they go around, they assess the workshops, and they say, yes, we're happy for you to give out habitation checks. And what happens, it's pretty similar to how you would get a car MOT. If you're going to a service centre, you book in, obviously, you would pull up, you leave the van with them for several hours. It normally takes 3-4 hours. They go through all the systems, and then you'll pick it up again and you will get a form which will tell you what's good, what needs work, what's bad, what needs fixing immediately. Basically just a checklist of all the things that you need to do. And again, if you look at the notes, there's a link to a sample checklist so you can see the sorts of things that they go through. If you're booked in for a habitation check, you could do with moving things out of your lockers as much as you possibly can, because obviously if things are in your lockers or your cupboards or your wardrobe, they need to be able to get behind that to make sure that everything is okay, that you haven't got damp spots. And if they can do visual inspections, then they're more likely to see areas that they need to look into a bit closer. So it's in your best interest to make it as easy as possible for them to get around into the various places that they're going to need to get to. Same for garages. If you've got a garage, you'll need to clear that out at least so they can get access to the spots that they need to get to. Another thing is, don't bother filling up your water tank before a habitation check, because they need to drain it, and then they need to do whatever voodoo magic they do with the water system to make sure that everything is okay. So don't specifically go and fill up your tank just before you have one done. You will need to have gas in the tanks. Now, some of these service centres will have gas bottles that they can connect for you, but if somebody's coming to you, you're going to need a gas bottle with some gas in it so that they can check that the gas system's all working properly. Again, if someone's coming to you, you're going to need things like your leisure battery. If you've taken it off for the winter, it's going to need to be on board. And again, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to need to get an electrical connection so that they can check all your sockets and your plugs and make sure that everything is working as it should be. So finally, the price. How much does a motorhome habitation check cost? somewhere around, bearing in mind this is for the UK obviously, but somewhere around £200 plus. Now our last habitation check cost us $290. I think we got ripped off, quite frankly, having done a bit more research into this. It did involve a full gas safety check, and it was when we sold our second motorhome. So the motorhome was bigger, but also I don't know if maybe it cost more because we had a selling certificate or something, or if that's just something that they came up with to take another 50 quid off us and we fell for it. I don't know. From what I've done on further research, the approved workshops generally cost around £200. It will differ, I'm guessing, depending on which part of the UK you happen to be in, but somewhere around 200, maybe up to 250 is what you can expect to pay for a habitation check. I'm just going to reiterate at this point, it is not the same thing as an MOT. You do still need to get your MOT and your insurance and your tax and everything else in place before you can legally drive the vehicle. It's not a replacement for that, even though they do check a few of the same things. But you do need to get both. It's in addition to the MOT, not in place of. And that's it. So it's not difficult. It's not something to worry about. Heck, you can use it. And I think a lot of people at the moment are worried because they can't or they haven't booked in for one, and they've got a trip coming up and now everything's booked up and they can't get one done before their next trip is. You do not have to have a habitation check done before you go on your trip. If you're worried about something, then that's a different story. And if you're really concerned that it's not safe to use, then don't. But you do not legally have to get one done before you can go off and enjoy your holiday, whenever that might be. So I hope that helps. Don't forget to grab your maintenance checklist from the link in the notes. If you're new to the channel and you'd like to see more helpful tips and videos about motorhome and campervan travel around the UK and Europe, then by all means hit subscribe. Thank you very much for your time. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.
We are out. We're talking about a good time. We're chasing every moment, all the good